Hi, I'm Jason Lauritsen. This is my YouTube video for the assignment this week for um, diversity, equity, and justice. Um, although I guess this is my third time now doing a YouTube video, so I guess I'm not really stepping out of my comfort zone anymore, and I'm more becoming comfortable with this. This is an interesting topic. It's something I'm very vested in. The prompt this week was about making visible your thoughts about actions Idaho and/or Washington educators should take to educate all children, whether in the midst of a pandemic year or during a more typical school year. And I'm going to say in reference to justice, diversity, and equity. Right now, with the political environment we're in North Idaho, justice-wise as teachers, there's not a lot of public actions that I think we can take without honestly jeopardizing your job. Diversity, to be brutally honest, we don't have a lot of diversity in North Idaho. I'm going to focus on equity, I guess, and more on the differences in financial equity. That was kind of addressed in one of the videos about homelessness and some of the issues that come up there with students. And some of us, even though it may not seem like it, we're all in college, we're, at least have access to enough money to go to college or through scholarships or whatever. But just the reality that there are students in our local districts that are homeless. And some of them not just homeless in, name only, like definition, like they're living with grandma, but, there are students living in cars. There are students living, in the woods somewhere. It's, the video shows us that. One of the things that really came to light this year, and this is secondhand because I'm not a teacher yet, but my wife is an online teacher, and so, everybody knows that there's differences in students' home lives and access to, different environments, but being an online teacher this year gave a real insight into the reality of, what certain students are dealing with. You think of the difference of a student doing online school this year that is from a high-income family with her own room, with a desk, with a nice computer that's just hers, and a webcam in a well-lit area, or, another student in the same classroom that is working from the coffee table with a Chromebook that's supplied by the school district that she's sharing with her 3 siblings while there's, toddlers running around in the background yelling, dogs barking, maybe a parent sleeping on the couch because they work nights and there's more than one family living in the home. And what is equity between those two situations? Does each student have the same fair access to an education? Yes, technically. Is the reality of what they are going through equitable in any way? One of the articles that I researched this week was about homework, basically. The title of the article was "Homework is a Social Justice Issue." And there's been a lot of controversy about that, in the past. Like, is it fair to give homework that carries a heavy portion of the grade, not knowing what a child's, home life is? The difference of, once again, a high-income student a student from a high-income family having a nice, quiet, private place to do their homework versus someone who, maybe lives in a house without electricity. Um, and one of the things with that is, I'm trying to think exactly how the article put it. It was talking about a flipped classroom, like the idea where instead of lecturing in the classroom, you'd provide a flipped or inverted idea where there's, say, video lectures or a lot of heavy online content that the kids will access, and just the fact that even something as simple as that, like what type of homework that you assign, can be an equity issue. I don't know. This is just, there's so many different places you can go with that. And going back to the prompt, like actions that Idaho and Washington educators can take dealing with this situation. What can the educator themselves do? I mean, they can't reach through the webcam and, provide a better environment for the student. So I know it's very frustrating sometimes, and teachers feel like their hands are tied, and, what can they do in that situation? What can they do for equity? I mean, they have a little more control in a normal year where they can at least make sure that, there's equitable access to education in their classroom. At least they can handle that portion of it and feel like they have some control. But, in an online situation like this last year, I mean, it was just devastating for some teachers, just feeling helpless about what they can do to help those students. And think about the equity also of, say, a student doing online work that has a parent home to help them versus somebody that, their parent's sleeping because they work nights. Even something as small as, a technical issue, like something's not working right with the computer and they just need some help for a minute. The teacher can't help them from where they're at, having access to a parent to help them or an adult. That's an equity issue. It's a socioeconomic issue. And I mean, you can even get into it. I always try to tie it into math some way, right? Success in math, a lot of it relies on how much help they can get from home. We as educators only have access to them a certain amount of time a day for that year, and a lot of the help they receive is going to be from their parents or other adults. A student whose parents have a good grasp of, math, has a good math background, is going to be able to help them more, and they're going to have a better chance at success with math than, a student that has parents that may not be as well educated or just not have a good math background or not like or understand math. So I keep going back to the prompt here. What actions can Idaho and Washington educators take for equity? One of the things they can do, and it's a lot to ask. I mean, teachers already put in a lot of their own money. The time they contribute to their students' education is way beyond the contractual hours. But being advocates for their students in the local community. I mean, whether I know teachers that, they're out there with the North Idaho Pride Alliance, showing their support for diversity, especially in a place that sometimes is not very accepting of diversity. But being an advocate also with the local school boards, teachers, making sure that they're showing up and showing their support for something as simple as the levies that are going right through right now. You can't have equity in education without the funding necessary for basic education. And also being advocates, reaching out to our local politicians and the state legislature for support for the funding that students need. And, you know, it's really hard to do this without being political in these subjects, but some of the nonsense that's going on right now regarding, you know, the legislature has failed to pass 4 times now a budget that gives an increase to teachers' salaries because they're worried that they're going to be teaching critical race theory or social justice issues. It's just very frustrating. But those, I guess, are the biggest things that we can do as educators in making sure that our children do have access to an equitable and fair education system. I went way over my normal time that I would do for this, so thank you very much for listening, and have a good night.